This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the new Montblanc Summit 2 Android Wear smartwatch. So this one is for you luxury watch buyers out there. Hey, for a lot of guys, a watch is the only jewelry they're going to wear. So for those of you who want a smartwatch, clearly the Apple Watch probably isn't it. The Apple Watch Edition even just looked like a regular Apple Watch with a slightly different finish. Samsung with their Tizen smartwatches, they really don't play in this kind of high-end space. But with Android Wear, there are a couple of makers, and Montblanc is one of them. So this one is actually pretty cool from a technology perspective as well. Besides running the latest version of Android Wear available, this is the first watch announced to have the Snapdragon 3100 CPU, which is, well, as you might hope, significantly faster. The 2100 it replaces had a single A7 core. This has 4. This also has timepiece only mode. So what does that mean? That means, say your battery is getting low and, gosh, suddenly you got a boat anchor on your wrist, right? It might be a classy, nice looking one, but it doesn't even tell the time. Now there is watch only mode or timepiece only mode. So that can extend the runtime from around a day to 4 to 5 days instead. We're going to look at it now. If you're wondering where you buy a watch like this, ours came from Timeless Luxury Watches. It's a review loaner. We don't get to keep it. This isn't sponsored, but they're in Plano, Texas in the Legacy West shops if you're interested in it. So they sell smartwatches like this and just high-end timepieces. So this one sells for $995 with the calfskin leather band on it and a stainless steel casing. You can also go up about $100 if you want the titanium casing, and if you prefer the Milanese style band, that's around $1,230. And they also sell traditional watches that go up to $12,000, so you get the idea. And among Montblanc watches, for those of you who are watch aficionados, you know that actually this one being about $1,000 is relatively affordable because their analog watches typically run $2,500 to $5,000. Whoa. So this is a 42 millimeter watch, but it's pretty darn big, like most men's watches. Even though it's built, it could be for men or for women. When I put this on without cutting the nice leather band, which since it's a loaner, I'm not going to do, it's pretty darn big on me. You get the idea here. There's a lot of extra space going on. But 42 millimeters, which is 1.2 inches, and it's an AMOLED display, so it's very bright. It's easy to see outdoors. It also has an ambient, always on mode, which is dimmer, but still pretty easy to see. It's 300 by 390 pixels. It is a perfectly round watch face, so no, Moto 360 flat tire thing going on at the bottom. It has a gig of RAM and it has 8 gigs of storage. About 5 gigs is available for you. So if you want to put music on it, the usual thing that you would do with Android Wear. And if you do that, it does not have its own speaker. I still wish that these would have speakers. It's really very handy. You do get haptics for feedback. But if you do put content, podcasts, or music, or whatever it is on the watch, you just hook up some Bluetooth headphones to it, and that's how you're going to listen to the content that's on there. There's a reasonably good selection of Android Wear apps out there. This is not particularly our review of Android Wear itself, but not as many as the Apple Watch, but I think enough to tide you over. You've got Uber, you've got Google Play Music, you've got podcasts, all sorts of stuff. And then there's the running and fitness stuff. A lot of that's the built-in Google Health stuff. It has a heart rate sensor on the underside, like all smartwatches do, and it's pretty darn accurate, which is nice. Now, given the luxury materials here, I don't know if you're going to be wearing this to the gym or out and sweating on it when you go for a run, but you could. And speaking of a run, it does have its own GPS inside. It doesn't have to rely on the phone for the GPS. This does not have LTE 4G. This is Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz band only, Bluetooth, and that's really how it's going to communicate with your phone primarily. And we have NFC for Google Pay on board as well. As you'd hope, you can buy watch bands. They're available and sold separately. Pretty bands, a couple of them in colors, different finishes. You get the idea. Now, the presentation is certainly, as we'd hope, at this price range, really very beautiful. The typical Montblanc box with the little white mountain inside. When you open it up, it all feels very luxe and very nice. Inside, you get the wireless charging base and a USB cable with a mini USB connector that plugs into the wireless charging base. It has a very small space, so their connector has a very small head on it. You might not be able to use any existing cables you have sitting around because they just might not fit. Now, typically, smartwatches don't come with their own chargers in the box, but still, at this price, I would have liked to have seen Montblanc include a charger. So you're going to have to plug it into your smartphone charger, into the USB port on your computer, whatever it is when you want to charge it. So whether you're out giving the GPS a chance to do your navigation stuff or help you tracking your run and that sort of thing, you have all the standard stuff you'd expect with an Android Wear smartwatch running Wear OS, which includes notifications, not just your Gmail, but your calendar, all sorts of stuff, your text messages. And you can customize the experience to control what things you get notified about. Say you're a super popular person and you get thousands of Gmails a day. Maybe you don't want your wrist vibrating every time a new notification comes in, that sort of thing. In terms of being a luxury watch, it has that feel. It weighs 62 grams. That's just the watch, not including the band. It's 14.3 millimeters thick, so that's pretty high off your wrist. But if you're used to traditional big-face men's watches, it's not going to be anything out of the ordinary. Honestly, happily, we're at the point where smartwatches are not super-duper thicker than their analog counterparts. In terms of what sets this watch apart, obviously it's a whole lot nicer. And honestly, I am not a real watch connoisseur or aficionado, but even I can tell that this thing just looks gorgeous to look at. It looks like a quality piece. The casing on it is nice and dense. The finish is beautiful on it. It's stainless, so it should be pretty darn durable. The calf leather bracelet, I kind of really wish it did fit me without having to trim it because it's the softest, most supple thing. I mean, this is nice stuff. Ladies, if you're out there looking for a holiday gift for your well-heeled husband, I think this would probably do the trick. But obviously, in terms of the functionality, it does what every other Wear OS watch does. But the one selling point right now is it is one of the few that's going to have that new Snapdragon 3100 CPU, so it's going to be quicker. As is typical still of Wear OS right now, the actual, actually thanks to the processor, the actual using of the watch, navigating back and forth, doing stuff, is all very snappy and fast. But anything that requires a connection to your phone, a network connection of any kind, there's often just a little bit of do-do-do-do-do. It takes a while. We're not quite there with the super duper fast communications, even if your smartphone is close by. As you can see, the watch has 3 buttons on. One of them is the main button. It's the digital crown, which does rotate, and you can use that as the on-off button and also as the back button if you don't want to give a swipe from left to right to go back instead. The other 2 are programmable. By default, one of them runs the health application, for example, but you can set it to be whatever you want. Now, Android Wear since 2.0 does have iOS compatibility, but the best experience is still really with an Android smartphone. So this is for the many users out there who are using Android smartphones. You could do it with iOS, though. There is support there, and you will get things like notifications and all that sort of stuff. Google Assistant integration even. And by the way, the watch also has a microphone, so you can speak to it and use Google Assistant. So that's the Montblanc Summit 2. Again, for those of you who are looking for an elegant smartwatch for yourself that looks like a classy piece and not your everyday watch, or you're buying it as a gift, this is one of the few really high-end watches. And believe me, it is nice. It has a bright display. It's got GPS. It's got NFC for Google Pay, and that new processor that makes it feel pretty snappy, other than the general communication issues with Android Wear not being the fastest always to talk to the smartphone. But well done, Montblanc. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and watch us up if you like this vid.